one. And we are recording. Back in the saddle, Mr. Jeffrey Prather. It's been a minute. Since our first episode. Came on with Sheffaloo. Then you came on with, what's his face? How rude of me. Morales. Oh God, if Ed's watching, he's gonna be Morales. It's Morales. Mr. Prather, please introduce yourself for everybody. Listen, you've been on here 3 times before. We haven't done one in a while, and you popped in my head last week, and I was like, I need to do an episode with Mr. Prather. And please introduce yourself for all the new listeners.
Jeffrey,
do the intro.
You want my?
I want the good one.
Former DIA intelligence collector and ex-DEA special agent, targeted by the deep state, turned whistleblower. Now your intelligence officer. Repurposed as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller. New mission: restore our fallen republic. Objective: defeat the deep state. Means: expose fake news. Tools: truth, discernment, and free will. Attention: deep state Dems, rhinos, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and assorted traitors and enemies, foreign and domestic. Your masks won't silence us. Your shutdowns won't stop us. Your riots don't scare us. You're not as organized as the British. You're not as disciplined as the Nazis. You're not as fierce as the Imperial Japanese. And you're not as brutal as ISIS. We beat them all. You're next. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point.
There it is. That's all. Podcast is over. Thanks very much. That's all we needed. that's the juice I needed. But so kind of the biggest thing, and I've interviewed tons of candidates now, and really the big thing yesterday I had on Joe Kent again with Dr. Malone. I'm sure you know Joe Kent, former Green Beret, running out of Washington State. He's a wonderful man. Really the only guy kind of openly out there calling out the World Economic Forum, the infiltration into all international governments, most concerning our own. But that being said, be it interviewing Mike Durant or Anthony Sabatini or whoever, really the big thing comes down to election integrity, because not a single one of these interviews matters if the votes don't matter. If truly none of it matters. Where are we, for all future listeners? Today is Friday, June 10th, 2022. Where are we on the spectrum of having actual upstand? And I understand there's always fraud. There always will be, always has been. That's the nature of man. Where are we now in terms of, is there any hope for a peaceful election here in 2022 and then 2024?
Well, there is always hope, and I am always hopeful, and I'm always faith-filled, and we will win this. But as far as they're going to be fair elections, they have no intention of having fair elections. There's no revenge tour going to be allowed. It's probably going to be the release of the monkeypox, smallpox, which is really only related to tranny homosexuals, which they do all the time in their orgies. But the problem with a lot of veterans, and I'm a GWAT veteran, but I'm certainly not a GWAT veteran like some of the Green Berets, is they think that the war they fought is the only war. And so they view war in the lens of the last war, which is GWAT, Government War on Terror. And that's over. I call that Global War III. We're now in World War IV. And, like with my friend Jeremy Brown, I had him on first, and he had the FBI come to recruit him prior to January 6th. And he recognized it because SF runs informants, and they know how to do that. And of course, Epps was a former Marine here in Arizona. But then he went to the Capitol, dressed in cami, Leiden and kit. Well, you're going to do urban operations. You should be covert and gray man and all that kind of stuff. So his mindset wasn't there. So the mindset of a lot of veterans, including a lot of Green Berets, unfortunately, who are experts in unconventional war, don't understand fourth versus fifth generation war. And so 20 years ago, during the first Gulf War, the Chinese watched us win the first Gulf War very quickly, because we knew the fake news would turn against us, because Walter Cronkite during the Tet Offensive said it was a terrible defeat and was a total victory for us. We won every battle in Vietnam and lost the war. So we know we got to win fast. And so we won so fast that the Chinese watching us, 2 Chinese Air Force colonels, said, we're not going to make the same mistake that Japanese and the Nazis did. We are going to flank them through unrestricted warfare. We're going to do everything else but fight them straight on, because nobody can take the American warrior straight on. Nobody. And I agree with that. The world's never seen the like of us because of our exceptional love of life and freedom. So they developed an unrestricted warfare doctrine to flank us. And they did that through espionage and sabotage. And so I am a former DEA special agent. I've run lots of informants. That's how I became a whistleblower. I was a military intelligence officer in special operations. Later on, I went into special operations intelligence, defense intelligence. I've run lots of sources. So what you do for espionage is you want to penetrate the enemy at the highest level possible. And you do that by assessing them. What are their weaknesses? For example, with the Biden family, it's real obvious. Their obscene pedophilia, they're just easily manipulated. If you give them a kid or a prostitute or anything, and then you drug them, and then you film them, and then you pay them. So you bribe them, you addict them, then you extort them, and then you control them. And there's nothing new about this. This is what case officers from the CIA, I've taught at the farm, and I've taught at DIA, tactical agent handlers. The terminology differs a little bit, or special agents who run confidential informants. Now they call them confidential human sources, but it's always the same thing. And so what the Chinese have done, have infiltrated us over 20 years at all levels. Our attorney generals, our president, most state attorney generals, the FBI, the CIA, all of that, through espionage. They have infiltrated us, interdicted us, and then they have sabotaged us. And so they coordinated all that. And if you haven't done covert operations, it's difficult to understand, even for Green Berets, who are experts in kinetic unconventional warfare, but they're not so used to unconventional covert warfare. So clandestine warfare is we're just hiding it. Covert warfare is we want somebody else to think it was the source of what was going on. And so that's kind of where we're at. And they have no intention of allowing any fair elections. They are now their plans are not going according to plan, because as Pete Blaber, the former Delta Force Squadron commander who wrote the Mission to Men and Me, said, no plans go according to plan. Plan is invaluable. Plans are useless. Develop the situation. And they're locked into plans and they are failing. But that doesn't mean they aren't going to continue to destroy elections, because they want to control what's going on. So that's where we're at. So is there a chance of fair elections? Not a chance. Peaceful, corrupt elections? Sure. Will there be peace? No. It's going to be a violent, bloody, fiery summer. Blantifa, what I call Antifa and Black Lives Matter, I just combine it, from Clay Martin, former Green Beret.
I've had on here several times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I'd love to get him. You have to.
I'll put you in touch with them.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it already is, and it's going to be even bloodier than it is, because, and this is the good news, their 5th-gen information influence operations are failing daily. Their false flags are failing. It doesn't mean a lot of people aren't getting killed. They are. Those kids in Uvalde were massacred and murdered. But when the American people finally figure out that Uvalde was planned, when I showed on my podcast the 2 guys standing as the shooter, the clip you see on all the propaganda press fake news of the shooter entering, but they cut the part right before that where there's 2 guys standing there. Yeah. And they find out that an Army surveillance plane just flew in right before and left afterwards. When they find out that he was groomed through SSRIs, when they realized that a gamer alerted the FBI 30 minutes before, which gaming platforms are used for covert communications all the time, when they figure out that those children were killed to bring about the premise that good guys with guns, a whole bunch of cops with rifles standing around outside, can't stop a bad guy with guns. That's the whole script. That's the latest version of Fast and Furious. When they figure that out, they will hang them from lampposts. That's just like we did the Nazis.
That's the first thing I thought. Well, actually, I'm gonna make a note of that right now. Clay Martin. Yeah, he came on last or earlier this year, and then he came on like a week ago. The guy's
No,
hilarious.
he's great and he's hilarious. I love him.
He's
I'm a
absolutely
big fan.
he's absolutely hilarious. We were talking about a robot's gonna replace people, and he was like, you can't sacrifice a robot to Moloch. It doesn't have the same kick. But the one thing I thought was like, I always try to just look at, I try to remove all of my own prejudices and biases, which I obviously have, we all do. And I just look at like what is happening on the chessboard. Like, what is the effect of this? And the first thing I thought was like, well, this is a loss of faith in police officers, right? Let's just remove everything. You go, cops didn't enter, public sentiment against them. Well, you think about it and you go, well, that doesn't really make sense in terms of the whole gun
No.
grabbing thing. You go, right, because the whole idea is you the pleb don't need one. You call the men with the guns. The only thing I could possibly think of was it is to continue the assault on police officers and defunding the police that brings about chaos, and then you beg for the federal government to come in with a federal police force. Do you think there's any credence to that thought? And that's something I put next to no thought into. But
Well,
that's really
yeah,
the only
no,
thing I could come to terms with.
that is true, but that's already happened with the safe cities with Holder when I was going against Holder. And no, the new narrative is that, look, there were a whole bunch of good guys with long guns, cops with long guns standing around. A good guy, a bunch of law enforcement with long guns can't stop a bet. That's what this was about.
Okay.
And McConaughey, he may be an unwitting, I don't know. But McConaughey was picked because he made We Are Marshall. We Are Marshall was about a team of kids that were killed, a football team of kids that were killed in a plane crash. I'm like, hey, he's already done this acting job. He can do it again. Yeah. So we're going to push aside the few black staffer that hasn't quit yet because of the other ones, because of the racist, Nazi, fascist, tranny pedos in the White House, and push her aside for the day because she's incomprehensible and knows nothing. Her hair's great.
Sure, she has great. She does have great hair.
Yeah, well, that's for black folk, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Lots of hair issues, but
she has beautiful hair and beautiful skin. Not to sound like
she does. Yeah, she does. but that's why McConaughey was brought in there, and so he talks about Converse and his wife or whatever is wearing the same shoes, but they don't talk about the plane. They don't talk about where they get the guns. They don't talk about the F-250. They don't talk about the two guys standing there. They certainly don't interview Angelique Gomez, who the mom who went in after she was cuffed. They also do, and here's where their plan went wrong. So this is important for people to understand, because the script is being put out that immediately your elite BORTAC agent assaults with federal agents. Well, I was a DA special agent. I went through Operation Snowcap. I deployed with BORTAC. BORTAC is typically trained by 7th Special Forces Group, Operation Detachment 18, and they're real good. I've deployed with them, but he wasn't on duty. So his wife, the mom of the kids, worked in the school. So it was a mom in the school that called her husband, the dad, who happened to be an LEO, who was off duty. He says, "Thank God I was off duty," because that's where the plan went bad. Is he wasn't out in the sticks someplace chasing illegals to then let ICE and DHS resubmit them through and pimp kids from all over. And so he got out of the barber chair, grabbed the shotgun, went in. But here's the key point that people don't miss. He was an LEO. He knew all the LEOs there, except for the marshals. And again, why were the marshals all of a sudden there? It's not that many marshals, and they were the first federal agents, and they're the last to be corrupted. What were they doing there? Well, they're part of the plan, or they're CIA with FBI marshal credentials. That's covert ops. But he was able to move freely through the filter because he was an LEO and go in. Otherwise, he would have been told to stand down like the funeral director was, or he would have been told to, or he'd been cuffed up or whatever, like anybody else. But he had the credentials. He knew the guys, so they let him in, and then he acted because he had an interest because his kids were in there. And that's the difference. So that's what I'm telling everybody is get your kids out of public school. All they're going to do is tranny them and pedo them. Rotate moms. If the mom's got to work, then rotate moms and homeschool. And that's what I've done with my kids. My kids are out of the desert Christian school that's gone woke and BLM. If you can't pull them out, then rotate dads on duty. Forget about SROs, although the Alabama SRO, good cop, well done, pat on the back, buy you a drink. I wish I could shoot the guy in the eye too. It's on my bucket list, but well done. But for the most part, don't trust them and abandon their institutions, establish our own alternative institution, because that's how we wage unconventional fourth generation insurgency, because we are in an unconventional fourth generation insurgency in our own country against our own government, who is controlled by China and big everything, big tech, big pharma and everything else. And I'm not advocating anything illegal, immoral, unethical, or violent, although I'd love to shoot that guy in the eye. And the left does all the time. But that's where we're at, and that's how we're going to do it. So we just don't pay attention to their schools and their hospitals and all of that stuff. And they just, it's like where the FBI just arrests the FBI on, the DC cops arrest the FBI agents on the 2nd January 6th. That's how it's got to be. Just let them consume each other.
Yeah, let the undercovers go after the under. And yes, unfortunately, as I often have to do, more often than not each week, neither Mr. Prather or myself are calling for violence. So go fuck yourself, FBI agents.
Yeah, and I say that all the time. Listen,
you have to.
I know you FT11s are listening. I know a whole bunch of guys, because sometimes there's a couple good ones. But if you don't like what I'm saying, then do something about it.
Yeah, but we are having a civil conversation and am not calling for any violence. Could you maybe go back to what was I going to say? Another one I want to make a note of is I had a guy on earlier this week, Basil Baz, 65, I think, former CIA paramilitary, was in Mogadishu before 160th and Delta, but he's now running a 501(c) to rescue children being trafficked. I think that would be a really cool guy for you to chat with, but that's another thing for another time. Could you go into, and I have to be careful around this, just very simply looking at what others have done. I can't just, go down like an Alex Jones rabbit hole and attack this and say it's not real. And I'm not saying that you're saying that. That being said, could you go in, because I did see a post about it. Could you go in and talk about the Army Special Forces plane or Special Operations plane? What is the significance of that? Is that me, a layman who's never served? Is that me seeing patterns where they don't necessarily exist?
No, that's a pattern. That's a very identifiable footprint signature of Special Operations Intelligence. When I saw that, I was very dismayed. Just like when I saw the DPS plane that was probably rented by the FBI, who were actually credentialed, FBI credentialed CIA guys, because that's how it works behind the scenes. If you want to see a great movie on that, Val Kilmer was supposed to do my book Chase when it was a movie script, and watch the movie Spartan, and you'll see him just change credentials and change identity. Like on January 6th, you see all the Capitol Police. Those aren't Capitol Police. That's why everybody's masked up. They're probably FBI agents, but behind that, they're probably CIA. CIA used to like to carry our credentials, DEA credentials, because we operated as Snowcap. We were allowed to carry guns in a lot of countries. We had gun cards to carry guns in different countries. And typically, if you're a NOC, a non-official cover case officer, you don't get to carry a gun. So they would like to do that. The Haiti thing with CIA guys masquerading as
those mercenaries.
Yeah. So the old clowns, I know some of those old ones, they're okay. They're patriotic. At least some of them are. They're not particularly competent. People don't understand this, but the CIA Special Activities Branch, SAD, and I've worked with SAD, they are not Jason Bourne. They're all ex-military. They come from ex-military, and they're brought in. And so when it was good, they had ex-Special Forces or Delta guys. I mean, the most famous one is, what's his name?
Dale
the
Comstock.
Famous Special Force. No, not Dale. He's
Joe Tedeye.
He's from, he was almost killed in Vietnam. He had to retire medically. He was the guy who could have killed bin Laden. He was jogging by the house.
Billy Waugh.
Billy Waugh. Yeah, yeah. So Billy Waugh's jogging by bin Laden's house every night, and then
he's got the prosthetics on the face and shit.
And then he says, "Okay, I can go do them," and then just find them. And Clinton never gives him the work. Those guys are good. Dale Comstock, those guys are great.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Sure.
But later on, the younger generation, gets corrupted, and I wouldn't trust a new clown, just like I wouldn't trust a new Phoebe at all.
Yeah, it is.
So I think I may have forgot your question now.
No. I was gonna say no. It is disillusioning. I've interviewed Ray McGovern, and he talks about how terrible the CIA is now. Boswell Boz said that the other day. He was former Special Activities Division. They all say the same. Ed Morales, I think, said it when you were on here. He was like, the FBI. Oh, yeah. He's like, I don't know what the FBI is now.
So when I was going through SOT school, Special Operations Tactics course, which doesn't even exist anymore now, it's Sephardic and Cephalic, but being trained by Delta guys, the blue light course, it was surgical shoots where you shoot so much you sit in a room and they shoot over your shoulder, hostage rescue. Then I hung out with some of those guys, and they were doing child rescue because there were naive American women marrying Muslim men, going back to Muslim countries, and all of a sudden they can't drive, they can't do anything. And so they'd go over there. And so that's how that kind of got started. And I'm sure Dale can probably talk about that more, or he has, but they did it, how they did it. And actually I've done it in Mexico, is they'll go with the mom into the country, no guns. They stop the school bus. They get on the school bus, they take the keys, throw the keys into the desert, throw money at the driver. The kid runs to the mom, not to the strangers, and then they just fly out. And so that was happening back in the 80s. And so now you see a lot of former clowns or SAD or ex-Delta guys. The ex-Delta guys are the best, the CAG guys or the AFO guys, the Combat Applications Group, Advanced Force Operations Group. Those are the best at that for sure. But that's how it's done. And that's now, there's a whole generation of retired covert operators that some of them are good guys. There's Tu Lamb, there's Kyle Lamb, there's all kinds of them out there who are doing good stuff. And then there's ones out there doing bad stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I'm going to send you the episode I did with, I don't know what Bazzel, Baz. That's one of the things he did was when they were in Somalia or in Mogadishu, they saw these kids that were just sticking out like a sore thumb. And they were like, they're clearly not from here, but they didn't know what to do. And I'll send you the episodes so I don't rehash it.
Thanks. Yeah. No, they're running them out of Ukraine right now.
Oh, yeah.
Poland, as well.
And that's what he does now in Colorado is he has a 501(c) to specifically fight that. And he was talking about like running for something. He's like, the only problem is if I stop running, then I can't do this anymore, which is a real dilemma. They were the first ones to, I guess, actually get video of like those military craft bringing people in the middle of the night and dropping them off in like Tennessee and Kentucky or wherever.
Yeah, all those kids are being pimped. The best thing that happens to those kids is they're working 14-hour days in fields and factories. The worst thing is unthinkable, and it's happening. And because the Obama-Biden regime, they're a bunch of evil pedophilia. There's plenty of video and photos of Obama and Biden, groping kids. Trump's no saint, but I've never seen anything of him groping kids.
And if he is, I'll drop everything for him in a second. That's you can't come back from that. That is pure evil. To kind of shift this, do you think, and this is kind of like meta theme, and it's almost, some people might almost roll their eyes at it because you can't prove it or disprove it. Do you think that all of this evil is by accident? And I don't mean in the whole 5th generation, 6th generation warfare. I don't mean that. I mean in like truly the sense of good and evil, of angels and demons, of God and Satan, and really just the consciousness of man. Do you think that all of this is by accident, or do you think we're here on purpose in this time to be here to fight, to do the right thing? because everyone can go to the gym when you wake up and you feel great, you have a cup of coffee, everything's smooth. Oh, I'm gonna go out there, go work out. Hot girl at the gym, you want to impress her. The days are when you're on your 7th or 8th straight day, you're a little hungover, you feel a little fat, you stub your toe on the way out, it's raining. But those are the days that you really callous the mind and you become driven and you focus and you do what needs to be done. It can be easy in a utopia where everything's safe and everything's wonderful and it's the land of milk and honey and opportunity. Do you think that we're here in this life? Not that you know the answer, and I don't know that anybody knows the answer. Are we here in this overwhelming sense of just, I mean, truly just pedophiles and Marxists demolishing this nation? Do you think we're here to grow on a spiritual level, or is this just some escapism that I'm doing to shirk the responsibility of knowing that the society I've raised in is now falling apart around me? Not that you have the answer, but
Well, actually, I do have the answer.
okay.
And I'm really glad for you to ask those questions. So, I am a product of rape. I'm a bastard. My mom, my birth mom, was raped by a guy. And then I was in an orphanage and I was adopted by a great family. I was raised as a Catholic. Then I became a chaplain. I also had a near-death experience because I trained with an Apache medicine man. That's my book, Boys Are Born, Men Are Trained, My Journey with Apache Medicine Man. And I run Christ Chaplaincy. So I've had near-death experiences. I've had experience with, you can say angels or aliens or demons. I would say, you say potato, I say potato, trans-dimensional beings.
Sure.
Because crossing space is too vast. You have
it's interdimensional. Yeah.
Right. And so if you look at the transfiguration, right before that, Yeshua, Aramaic name of Jesus, says, some people here won't die until they see the kingdom of heaven. He goes up on the mountain. All of a sudden there's glory. There's 3 other figures. Either he was wrong, they died and didn't see heaven, or he opened up and showed them the multiverse gates. And where is heaven? It's beyond the walls of time and space, where God is, because the walls of time and space are expanding outward. The universe is finite. And beyond that is God, is heaven. And so, I had a near-death experience. I'm very spiritual. And the one thing, I don't know if you've experienced this with when you've interviewed Delta guys or anything, but I found them to be very spiritual and very religious guys.
Across the board.
And so a while back, I brought in a guy. So a lot of my guys from Warrior School, which was my tactical training company, they ended up, someone went to Delta, someone went to MARSOC. One of them became a JTAC, just got medals for heroism. And one of them is going to the Tier 1 Special Operations unit that I used to be in. And he came in and was talking about the selection. And the whole thing was about, I couldn't expect any of it. And this guy's a super fit, world-class athlete, because you're Tier 1, you got to be.
Yeah.
That's the starting point.
Yeah.
That's just then you got to lay on the skill sets.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was about God and his family, because he couldn't figure out the selection. He never knew. And he's Ranger. He's got lots of t-shirts like me, but it all came down. You had to go beyond yourself. You couldn't make it, on your own. So you have to, when I say human oriented to God, then human terrain orientation. Who's to your front is who you emulate. Who's behind you is who's emulating you. Who's on your right is who you look up to. Who's on your left is looking up to you and who you're looking out for. And so that's neighboring up. That's what Special Forces, Green Berets did in Afghanistan, building rapport, nice beard. And so that's how all of that is done. So if you look at, is it an accident? No, not at all. If you look at a shell, you can see the golden ratio. If you look at my ear, you can see the golden ratio. If you look up at the Milky Way, you can see it. So that's consistent creator design. It's pretty obvious. If you read The Physics of Christianity by Francis Tipler, so quantum physics follows the Trinity, pretty clear. So then you find an order and you follow the creator's order of things: childhood, youth, adulthood, old age, spring, summer, fall, winter. You follow that order and you develop yourself in that order. And so, when I had my near-death experience, I experienced a message. Didn't hear it, didn't see it. I heard it, saw it. It was all synergistic. It was beyond that. So when I read, Yeshua coming out of the water and there's a voice, I'm like, oh yeah, heard the voice. And when I read The Rise of Superman, where extreme athletes talk about they've been close to death and they've heard the voice, I'm like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So it's in the old documents, it's the new documents, I've experienced it. Got it. So I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to. So when I signed a lot of my stuff is Isaiah 6:8 is, and that's the motto of the old Tier 1 Spec Ops I was in is, rivers in the wilderness, whom shall I send? Send me.
Mhm.
And so it's not about you. It's always about what God wants you to do. What is God going to require you to do? And then if you listen to that, then, okay, am I up to that? Can I do that? Can I shoot that well? Can I last that long? And that's where you have to train so that when God calls upon you, you're ready to do it. And, we just had, D-Day, Day of Days, longest day plus 78. And you look at, Billy Mitchell, just after World War I, predicts Pearl Harbor. And what's he get? Court-martialed for it. Because that's what happens to good intelligence officers and prophets. And then midway, Leighton predicts, they don't listen. And then Rochefort breaks the code, and Leighton, AF, it's AF, we know it's going to come. And they plan, and Japanese are kicking our ass across the Pacific. And all of a sudden, in an instant, everything changes. And part of that is that the Japanese scout planes launch, but one launches a half an hour late. And then, I don't know if you know this, but then when he finally finds the American fleet, he goes to radio and location, radio doesn't work, divine providence. Then we come up to June 6th to Normandy, and the weather is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there's a little break. So we got weather cover, and then there's a break. And the flak throws off the paratroopers. I'm a paratrooper, St. Mary Glees. We know that story. That's why we got stained glass windows, because of our blood-drenched sacrifices. But the weather, by the flak and the weather, throws off so that not it was going to be 7 out of 10 every paratrooper's KIA or WIA, and it was 2 out of 10. So anybody who studies military history or who is a real warrior, and you don't have to be tier 1. Desmond Doss wasn't airborne, and Audie Murphy wasn't a ranger. Doesn't matter what color your hat is. In fact, most of them are wimps or they're dweebs until they're like, "Hi, I'm Desmond Doss." But they have this faith core that burns them, and they can just do the impossible with God. But it's a combination of those things, and that's really, really important. That's why for real warriorship, you have to become spiritual, because you can't do all that other stuff if you aren't.
Yeah. I was going to say, all of the tier 1 guys, the Delta, the special activities division guys, they're all not just spiritual. I mean, it is an overwhelming force when you talk to them. And that's one of the things I love most about them is if I interview somebody with hair down to their ass and talking LSD, nothing wrong with that. But, if we're talking about love and energy and frequency, you kind of expect it. You're like, yeah, of course, this is what we're talking about. But when you're talking to someone like Dale, who's in Delta Force at age 23 and not a bullshit guy, but then he talks to you about like aligning with the frequency of what you desire and like doing what you know is good and like following like the love of God. You're like, what is that? And then, Basil Buzz, the guy I interviewed just the other day, who's friends with Billy Waugh, was talking about everything.
Really?
Oh yeah, he was naming all these guys, and
Wow.
Oh yeah. And he goes, and it finally dawned on me that there was more to this life than overthrowing small governments, and it was saving children. I thought it was a great line. But he goes into everything that you and I are talking about. He's like, we're here for this purpose. It's not supposed to be easy. And for a long time, the scientific mind or the side of you can reject it. I mean, I'm a biology major. I got into medical school. I got into pharmacy school. I published research in aquatic toxicology. It's a real science asshole. And for about 10 years, I was an atheist because I couldn't see it in a test tube or a beaker, or I couldn't measure it. And I mean, after my brother died, and then after interviewing Charlie Duke, youngest man to ever walk on the moon in 2020, and he told me the only thing better than walking on the moon was walking with God. And I was like, well, that's amazing. You finally come to terms that with that you're never going to pinpoint it. You're never going to isolate the molecule. Here it is. Here's the carbon and the height. There's God. It's not that. I mean, I'm an avid meditator. I know I'm scrambling all around right now, but I'm an avid meditator. I've meditated almost every day since 2008. The deepest, most spiritual moments of my life, not LSD, not psilocybin, but meditation. You intuitively know, like when you said the voice, it's not that someone tells you or somebody writes it down. You know, just like right now, I'm looking at Mr. Prather. I don't need somebody to confirm it. I'll go, there he is. Here's the water bottle. I don't need someone to say that there is water. There it is. This is where we are. You intuitively know. You just know. I know who I am. I know what I am. You just know. And in those experiences in meditation, you do, and it sounds insane, but I mean, you do leave space and time. It's not this idea of go to the moon and then go to Mars and then go to the Alpha Centauri and then go to Andromeda Galaxy. It hits you like a ton of bricks. You go, oh, that's way too far. You go, of course, there's going to be another mode. And when you're in that, you can feel overwhelming love. I mean, I've felt connected with my brother who I lost to suicide. I felt more connected with him in those mind states than anything else in my life. The natural conclusion then is, well, if I'm experiencing all of this love and lightness, the polarity of the universe says there also has to be an opposite. And that's what that's what Basil Boss said the other day. He goes, once you start rescuing, what did he say? Once you hunt down a pedophile who raped a kid and buried him in the woods, no part of you denies that there's evil in this world. And not just what is the verse, principalities of evil, like not of flesh. That is what's going on here. And when people kind of roll their eyes, like I tell them, like, as the biggest science-minded person there is, there's really no other conclusion I can come to than like there is evil and there is good. Just you can't look
Yeah.
at the daytime sun and then reject that there's also a night.
So I say, I have a lot of little Pratherisms to help people, and they quote me and they tweet them because I do it. And so good is intentional help. Evil is intentional harm. The Aramaic translation of sin is missing the mark. It's an archery term. It's a military marksmanship term. So sin is not evil. Then you can add on to it, aliens or angels or intelligent, non-corporal energy forms that help. But yeah, there is definitely, and that's what this is all about. And the way it's taught religiously is for big church is ridiculous, because Yeshua was not a pacifist. Yeshua said, go buy swords. Yeshua was executed for political speech and violence with a weapon, overturning tables in the most sacred place. And he purposefully pissed off both the Romans and the Pharisees simultaneously. He was doing warfare. He just understood how he's doing it. So that's all very true. And when I give a speech, I say, if you're having trouble finding God, then just look for God in the reflection of your children and your wife. And so this can go back to scripture, and they just present it very badly because they want you to worship Catholicism or Protestantism, as opposed to not even worship, but connect to God. Because God doesn't need to know how great he is. Some guys, God, you're just so great. Yeah, I think I got that.
Yeah, I know.
I think we can move forward. But when the angel, how I put the angel Gabriel showing up to Mary, here's how I give the angel Gabriel speech to Mary is, hey, Mary, Holy Spirit's going to cover you, impregnate you, and then your husband can turn you out. You can be stoned to death. Under the law, everybody will stone you and spit on you. We're going to impregnate you. How about that? And her answer is, my soul magnifies the Lord. Okay, I will open myself to that and see. And then the angel comes to Joseph and says, hey, Joseph, your maiden is knocked up. Everybody's going to laugh behind your back forever, but you can stone her. You can divorce her. You can crush her head with a conch. And I've seen people stoning kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and that's all, and it's all legal. It's all under the law. You want to do that? He goes, I'll keep her and I'll keep the kid. Well, then you got to flee because they're going to kill everybody. Okay. So we're built for challenge. I have martial arts kids that I'm hitting with a padded bow, and they're smiling. They love it. We're built for challenge. We're built for the fight. We are designed for the fight, and we will win the fight in the end. But it's going to take everything we have, along with divine providence, to win.
I also don't think that there's any way out, in that I think that, like, if you really wanted to, you could probably, like, exfiltrate yourself from society and not be part of the Marxist takeover and also not be part of a resistance, just go live in the middle of nowhere. You probably could. But one thing I really do believe is that you die and you're gonna be thrown back into it. You can keep dropping. Like, I dropped pre-calculus 4 times in college. I didn't pass it, I didn't fail it. Somehow I got into medical school, and finally I had to take it. But those 4 drops, it just didn't exist, except I had to keep going back. And finally it dawned on me. I was like, it's Groundhog Day. I just got to take the class. Got an A, but finally I took it.
Well, I got a great story for you about
All
that.
right.
So, I am a senior master in the Bujinkan Warrior Spirit School under Soke Hatsumi. It's the ninja school, and I've been his student since I met him in 82, and then I went to Japan in 84, took a hop, and before anybody else got there. And then there were all kinds of SAS guys and stuff showing up. But he used to do these called taikas in different countries. And I hosted a couple in Tucson, but then we also help each other. The senior instructors would help each other. And so I was at somebody's taikai, kind of hanging out with these other masters who'd come to see Hatsumi Sensei, because they're all like, whoa. And so at a break, we went to a back room, and the senior guy, I think it was the senior judoka in America, went to the side room to have tea while Sensei took a break. And so we get to go in there with him, I think I forget his name. He's a 10th dan in judo. He wants to like impress, because everybody's in awe of Sensei. And so he goes, that reminds me of the story where the farmer with the little patch held up the hoe against Miyamoto Musashi. Of course, Miyamoto Musashi wrote Gorin no Sho, Book of Five Rings, killed over 60 guys in live sword duels. He's the Kensei, the sword saint of Japan, real famous killer. Famous book. He goes, but he held the hoe so good that Musashi knew he couldn't defeat him. And usually, so I've sat with Sensei, and when with lots of people that come, and all kinds of weirdos come in, and guys come in and go, hey, I'm part Martian, and so I've taken the Bujinkan Ninjutsu and combined it with Martian, and it's called Martian Ninjutsu. And he'll go like, okay, very good, very good. Keep going. And then that guy walks out. He says, he's an idiot,
Jackass.
And he just lets people do it. But in this case, I guess because this guy was senior or sincere, he goes, no, that's not right. So we all went, whoop, what's he gonna? Because this is something coming. Because that's not why he didn't fight him. He goes, Musashi was a great swordsman and a killer, but he had nothing. He had no family. He had no kids. He had nothing to fight for or die for or kill for. This farmer had this little plot of land that he fed his family with, and Musashi realized that he could never defeat somebody like that.
Oh.
And then we all went, oh.
Oh.
So that was just a little gem. So when you hear me say on my show, American exceptionalism is based upon our exceptional love of life and freedom, because we love life and freedom so much that we'll go send our sons and daughters out to fight, kill, and die for it. We love life and freedom so much that we'll send our sons and daughters out to foreign soil to fight, kill, and die for it. And then D-Day plus 78, we do something no one else has ever done. We give it back. D-Day, Europe, Normandy, we just want enough soil to bury our dead. That is what makes us exceptional. And that's what has made us undefeatable.
Yeah. It also is, it's like what Ram Dass said, the greatest paradox of my life, he died at like 95, is that when I finally gave up all attempts at seizing power is when I was the most in control of my life. And I think the most beautiful thing, and like what I know in my heart is noble, is like there is not a single person I've ever interviewed on here, B-2 Spirit pilots, Delta Force snipers, whatever. There's no, we are going to roll the world with the American empire. It is to fight to the death for your freedom to go do whatever you want. it's the most insane paradox that fight for your right to be here and dye your hair pink and say you're a fox. Like that is beautiful. As absurd as like the 99 genders are, there's also something beautiful. Like, yeah, that's how free we are here. There's something totally beautiful about that. That all they want is for your ability to do what you want in this life, wherever you want. If I want to live in a city, that's fine. I personally would like to move up to New Hampshire. It's where I was born. That's fine. I don't need any court order. I don't need it. I don't need to be moved there by the Politburo. It's total hands off. And to me, that's at least in my limited experience and limited wisdom, is the beauty of it. Is the freedom to do whatever you want. And that is something worth fighting for. That genuinely is something worth fighting for. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Freedom in life. That's
Sorry,
what God says, freedom in life. And I'm wearing my Task Force Pineapple shirt today, you know?
I was going to ask what that was.
Yeah. So, you know, Task Force, that's ex-SF guys and Delta guys going over to get kids out of Afghanistan.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And so that is what it's all about. And that is the real warrior's way. And real power, and something else I say all the time is power is not force. All power flows from God, really. And you have to become a conduit for that to flow through. And that's real important to understand. And that's from scripture to the lady touches Yeshua's robe and he feels the power go out of him, to, you know, Desmond Doss carrying 75 guys. I mean, we've all done those drills. I can do 2 or 3. I don't know how many I could do after fighting a pitched battle all day. I know he was out of water, you know, and then he just does it, you know, and keeps doing it.
Yeah.
And you can hear that story a million times from all kinds of guys who've done stuff like that.
Yeah. Baz was saying the other day how he always used to, whenever they'd get out of something, you know, CIA paramilitary denied territory, no, there's no QRF. And he goes, something, you know, we'd survive something absurd and he would go hand of God and all the guys would laugh. And he goes, by the end of our, like, you know, clandestine Title 50 missions, they'd all just be looking at each other going, yeah, hand of God. Like, that's what it was. There was no reason why that should not have happened. Our plane should have blown up 100 times. Like, yeah, I've had on Joe Tedai before. He was Green Beret and Special Activities Division. And they were, he and another guy were doing something for the agency, and it just went horribly south. And they were on what is this? Evade and escape and evade for 77 hours. And the guy he was with was a Delta Force guy, former Delta Force guy who had also been in Mogadishu and knew how to read situations. And he told Joe, he goes, hey, like, count your bullets, you know, keep one in your pocket. If they catch us, like, they're going to boil us alive. And that's when he said he knew it was real. And then finally, a guy from 160th, who was at that time in Special Activities Division Air Branch, came and rescued them. Really, like, kind of movie stuff, like put the butt right up to like the edge of like the cliff and they jumped in. And he showed me pictures of it. And he goes, our helicopter is so riddled with bullets, except for the one spot where we had this giant bladder of fuel. And he goes, at a certain point, you just look at it and you go, it's the hand of God. And I don't know, maybe someone listening to this is rolling their eyes, and that's your freedom to do so. But that's really the only kind of conclusion and who knows, maybe it's just lazy science. Maybe I'm not looking deeper. Maybe I'm not looking at patterns deeper.
No, there's a lot of there, whether it's Geronimo or George Washington or Patton, there's guys who just don't, God's like, nope, you're not going to get hit because I need you to do this for the rest of this time. And I don't know, have you had my friend Chad Ball once on, Bulldog?
I've not.
Who, you know, you should have him on because
I'd love to make a note of that.
He's the Green Beret who was behind enemy lines, and the little goat herd kid walks up, and behind them is the Iraqi armored column, and they're saying, "Hey, Chaz, Bulldog with his handle is, should I shoot the kid?" And they're like, "No, we got kids. We're not here to shoot the kids. They oppress the bear. We're here to liberate. We're going to fight this out." And so, don't shoot the little girl. It's the same thing in Bravo 20. You know, the little girl tells the dad tells the armored column, get in a big fight, hold them off, and they're calling like, "Hey, we're about to run out of ammo," and there's a couple of TFs 160 guys one bird sitting on the ground, like, hey, we got to go get these guys. They're about out of ammo. And like, well, only one bird, need two, because they're always falling out of the sky. And they're like, well, we're going anyway. Court martial us when we get back. And I'm like, well, then since we're just about to kick off war operations, we'll let you go. We won't want to court martial. Maybe after the war, swing in, get them out. Nobody's even hit. But he made the selfless decision. He had already decided, I am a godly man. I'm a father. I'm not here. This girl did not volunteer to be killed. We're here to save kids. I volunteered, join the Army, go airborne, go Green Beret, go behind enemy lines. She didn't. And so we're going to fight this out, and I'm going to have faith in God and faith in my skill set. And, we're going to win this. And those are really important for your listeners to hear. All of these stories, Midway and Normandy and Chad's story, and in the community, everybody knows who Chad is, by the way. Chad Baldwin's Bulldog, everybody knows. I think it's 542. I think it's ODA 542. Just had the 20th anniversary of it. And we were all like praising it, that's a team effort. And it's typical. But it's important because we're in a bad place now, everybody. But we've been in bad places before. And we can win this. And if we team up together and rely on God and each other and endure, and it's not that there aren't going to be a lot of people killed, there are. It's not going to be that God's not going to wring us out of every ability and skill set, and some we don't even know we have. But we will win this. But we've got to be virtuous and be selfless. And we'll win this. Or I may not be alive to win this. I got guys working with me on Team America, like, we won't be here for this, but our kids will be. So that's really important. That's why I'm still teaching kids, by the way.
Yeah. It's another CIA paramilitary guy I've interviewed before is Dr. Keith Rose, who came back after serving and became a physician, and now he's a surgeon. He has a podcast called The Scalpel. Total badass guy. But I remember him telling me, it's like, it's noble what you're doing with your podcast, like trying to get the word, interviewing Dr. Malone, McCullough, all these guys, thank you. I'm patting myself on the back. Just understand that sacrifice is transactional, but it's not always immediate. Some people, they sacrifice, they go and they come back from Europe and they get to see the golden age of the 50s, and they got to see the fruits of their labor. There are some guys where the landing craft, the door dropped and they got a bullet through the head. Their sacrifice was still transactional. It still yielded the VE and VJ day, but they didn't see it. And I think there's kind of an important thing in there is to remember that.
That's really true, because I had Chapman's sister on, and Chapman is the first Medal of Honor recorded. It's recorded on FLIR. I'm sure you've seen it.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And he died. They kill him twice, and he saves everybody twice, and then doesn't make it. And they don't even want to, Slab is the sixth guy who gets the big blue, and then tries to kind of stop Chapman from getting it. And that heroism just keeps paying dividends, because it also exposed what the admiral in charge of all the SEALs now says is, hey, we got a problem. And I've worked with plenty of SEALs, and I've known some great SEALs, especially 4, because I was 7th SF, and so 7th SF works with 4 because they're Latin American. And I know some other ones, Jason Redmond, friend of mine. But the mentality of we're SEALs and you're not is not the way to go, because there's ego in there, and that's what meditation, that's what zazen. You're trying to reach mushin, no mind, so that you can receive zanshin, which is opening up to be able to absorb anything. And I just think that Chapman continued to, his amazing sacrifice continued to reverberate in ripples, because most civilians think the SEALs are the shit. And those of us in the community know that the AFSOC are the highest level, the PJs and the CCTs and the JTACs, their tubes and their filters are longer than anybody else's, and they go with everybody, just like an 18 Delta goes with everybody, because you got to have medical support always. So all that stuff starts to trickle down and out. And that's real important. Back in my day, we cut the cargo pockets off of our blouses and put them on our shoulders, and now they don't have pockets down there, so you can tuck them in and the pockets are here. Well, we used to do that, and we used to cut A7A harnesses off and make our belts. But now they issue them that way, so it trickles down, it trickles out, and that's real important. That courage becomes contagious, and faith is rebuilding through difficult times. And that's the other important thing, I guess, is, everybody thinks you can bomb somebody into submission. And besides nuclear war, that doesn't work. That makes things primitive, but it makes people tribal up, work together harder. It builds resistance. And right now, the resistance is building as things get hard. And so it's actually good news. It's hard to understand that, but it is good news.
No, it absolutely is. And we'll wrap this one up in a minute. But have you ever read or heard of Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander? He was a neurosurgeon that fell into like a coma in like 2007 or something. Total atheist guy. Literal Harvard brain surgeon, like comically accomplished. And it's a great whole book about how he fell into this coma from a bacterial infection that like 1 in 12 million people survive, and he survived with his entire brain intact. But he talks about how it was like the 7 most lucid days of his life, and how he experienced like heaven, the afterlife, like before his life, like everything. And then he has another great book called Living in a Mindful Universe that goes into the idea that you chose this life before you were here. You chose it just like you go into the gym, you go, okay, today I'm doing deltoids and trapezius. And when you leave and they hurt, is intentional. You went in there. Didn't you? How come my shoulders hurt? Well, they went in because I grabbed the weights and said, today I'm doing these till exhaustion. And that's what you do. And that's what he talks about, kind of what our life is we're choosing this. But to his first book, he talks about how he went through these like 3 layers of like the afterlife, and at the final, most like omnipotent, kind of like breathtaking, you get it in meditation, like you said, everything opens up, there is no boundaries, there's no sense, it's like sphere. We can't even really say spherical because there are no shapes, but it's like spherical consciousness. He says one question is like, well, why is there evil? Like, if this thing is so perfect, and it is, why is there evil? And like the message he downloaded, or just knew, like we're talking about, is that in like the grandness of the universe, like 1% of 1% is evil. But you have to have that, because that's where the growth comes from. It's hitting it. That's where the callus comes from. That's what provides the resistance to, like you said, people tribe up, they take care of each other, communities are reestablished. That is where it comes from. You would never have growth otherwise. And I thought that was kind of beautiful, is that, like, because like you said, it's actually a good thing. People go, what do you mean? How is this a good thing? You go, hear me out. It is a good thing. The overwhelming negative. You would never have a 31-year-old like me who didn't serve, was a biology major, all of a sudden be screaming on his podcast about freedom of speech and like medical autonomy, and interviewing Dr. Malone and interviewing you. Like, when the hell would I have ever gotten involved in any of this? Well, it's because I saw a direct threat to it, and I was like, oh, like, you have to act. You have to act when it's your time to act. And but yeah, that's just kind of one final note I wanted to make, is there is goodness, and there is a necessity to the evil. That's what you spar with to grow. That's how you grow. It's gravity. You have to have gravity. That's what makes the gym possible.
We're children born in war. The Bible actually begins at the end, because it was a scroll. And so now it's linear, but it was a scroll, and it says there was a war in heaven, and the great Satan is thrown out, the dragon is thrown out, because there's separation. So when you're in your Mushin state, there is no separation. There is only, in Aramaic, it's called Allah, not Allah, but Allah, which means oneness or unity. That's the same as the Judaic prayer, is God is one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. We're all one. But as soon as you become egotistical and separated, then is when you start having problems, and you want to gather power, what I call the battery acid school of power, which is where you torture somebody or whatever, collecting power. But that's the way to look at scripture, as opposed to the way it's taught by big church, which is, just wanting you to be controlled by them. as well. And the way to look at Genesis is everybody's like, oh, if she eats the apple, she's the one, she's the problem. Well, no, if you read between the lines, where's Adam when the Nahash, which is not serpent, it's the sizzling one, it's an electric intelligent current in an electric branch, tree of life, not as it's dumbed down in kindergarten. Where is Adam? Well, he's probably standing right there doing nothing. And that's what we see today with so many men is they're passive and they become like another child and they don't do anything. And that's the real first original sin that is inherited. But we are supposed to be challenged. We are supposed to be leaders. And like, I'm all about conflict because I know after conflict comes resolution. But first, there's got to be conflict. You know, if you see Brad Pitt and Fury, he's like, I started killing Nazis in Africa. Now I'm killing Nazis in Germany. This will all be ended. But first, I got to kill some more Nazis.
Yeah.
And right now, we are funding Nazis instead of killing them anymore. There are Nazis at January 6th. There's Ukrainian Nazis, and we're all in with Nazis. We're bringing them across the border. And so there's going to be conflict. But after conflict will be resolution, but not before some of them are hanging from lampposts.
Fury is a fantastic movie. I fucking love that movie. Sorry, it just got me thinking about you. Yeah. Like, what's the line? Hey, Angel, this one's yours. How Peter's an asshole. Sorry, I just had a little moment. But Mr. Prather, let's wrap this one up. I will put you in touch with Clay Martin, and if you want, I'd love to put you in touch with some other guys.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on.
I didn't say I wouldn't come on with Dale or something. I think a long time ago, I just didn't, was busy or whatever, you know.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, dude, yeah.
You know, we probably know some got similar, you know, we'll probably do, you know, like old home week and stuff. And you're happy to do it.
You all know each other. Oh, no, I know that. I know you're a busy guy, man. No, I know that. Yeah, no, you guys all know each other. It's weird. You all know each other. I was talking to Dale about interviewed a guy, Ron Moeller, who was special activities division. I was like, yeah, there's this guy named Ron. He's like, oh yeah, I know him. And I was like, of course you do. Of course you all do. So I could only imagine my name is on the nexus of many NSA servers, as I am some agent he's getting a team together. It's Ed Morales and Vince Sheffield and Jeff Prather, and I'm sitting here in like slippers, like, no, it's all part of God's plan. He's too stupid to be left alone. It's yeah, they can't know what I'm doing if I don't know what I'm doing. So with that, Mr. Prather, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, all the links to all your good stuff will be in the description. I'll put you in touch with Clay Martin right after this. I made a note of it. I'll make sure to go through with it. And closing thoughts?
Fear not, God bless, keep the faith and hold fast. We are winning. We will win this. We'll just watch the outpost, see what winning looks like. Remember, freedom is never given. It's earned and taken. Take it.
Hell yeah, brother. We will win. Stay safe, everybody. God bless. God bless America. Find God in your heart. Meditate. Go for an exercise. Go look at the sun. It's all beautiful. Life is beautiful. We're going to win this. Fuck these demons. Thank you so much, Mr. Prather.